The first question I have is, what is the difference between inner being and God?
Nothing significant.
So how does Abraham define God? Or
Well, we don't try to define or quantify God in the way humans do. We understand that which man is calling God is an ever-expanding energy or consciousness, and that at its root is what we are calling the source of well-being. And as it continues to expand, it becomes more and more and more. Sometimes we refer to that which man calls God as all that is, but then man gets confused because when he thinks of all that is, he includes cancer and trauma and struggle. And that which we mean as that source energy is not a vibrational match with that. Man experiences that when he finds vibrational disharmony with that which is this source stream. So it is helpful when you think of this non-physical consciousness as a stream, because then you are able to allow it to be as expansive as it really is. The epitome or the best translation of that which man wants to call God, we see in human, we see in infant, or we see in beast. In other words, it's a physical embodiment of that source energy. And since man wants to get his thoughts around that which is God, then man wants to translate it into some form in order to understand it. And rather than translating it into the form, we would translate it into the characteristics, into the feelings, into the personalities or attitudes. And so we would say to you that which man calls God and that which we know as source energy is joyous, liquid love, knowledge of well-being, ever pouring and ever available and always expanding. As you need it to be more man-like, then you tend to give it more man-like characteristics. And so you make God angry, or you make God disappointed, or you make God unavailable, or you make God needing you to jump through hoops before he is available. And so man has done such a distortion number on that which is the energy of source that we rarely even use the word unless you do. Because when we talk about what is your dominant vibration, and we throw up a word like God, the vibration that comes from human masses is nowhere near the vibration that is that which we know as source. To human, God means superior. To the energy that is God, it is all that isness, equal, ever expanding. To human, so often, the vibration when the word God is offered, the dominant vibration that is stirred within is, I am inappropriate. And I'm trying to bring myself to the caliber of God, where the energy that is source says, you are magnificent, you are perfection, you are flawless, and you are expanding. When man thinks about God, man often thinks that God has standards that he must measure to. When that which is source energy approaches that subject, there are no standards that are other than self-chosen and self-imposed, because the perspective of the individual is so supreme and so important and so magnificent and so on the leading edge and so much the reason for the expansion of the universe that it must be not only enjoyed but encouraged. Human conjures with the word God opposite of that which source is, usually. God is love. God is well-being. God is adoration. God is appreciation. God is expansion. God is eternal. God is love. God is well-being. God comforts because God knows well-being. We'd get in a virtual reality and we would rework God if we were standing in your physical shoes. We would feel God rather than try to quantify God. So when you're listening to that music and you can feel joy within you that makes you want to move your body, you're full of that source energy. When you look at the face of someone who is innocent and free of judgment and you feel like you just like to lap them up and take them home and hold them close to you forever and ever, just to get that more of that feeling, you are full of that energy of Source. When you are feeling confidence and proud of yourself and knowing that you did really, really good, high on the moment that you have just conjured, you are full of yourself. When you are loving someone who is near you, just wanting to wrap yourself around them and through them and in them, you just love them so much that you just want to eat them alive, you are full of Source energy. When you are laughing, you are full of Source energy. God is emotion within you. That's how you know.
And then the other question I have is, does God evolve, or has all of this information been here all since the beginning of time?
Constant expansion.
So it is always evolving, like from the moment God began, whenever that is.
Well, look at it
all
this
the
way.
information was there then, or it keeps...
Feel how this surely must be. Feel how illogical it is, the premise that God is complete and that everything else is striving to catch up.
So the statement in the Bible that says...
The fact that you exist at all is testament to your expanding universe. In other words, if it were not for your willingness to come forth into the leading edge, to discover the new desire, which is the asking that summons life force forth, there could not be expansion. In other words, the idea that God is complete is illogical beyond physical description. It defies every law of the universe.
So the statement in the Bible, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, is not a truth.
What else comes with that? In other words, what was the context in which it was offered?
Well, the context being that he went...
Who was speaking the words, do you recall? From what perspective were those words spoken? Every word that is in the Bible was translated through a human who was living some circumstances. And if you know the circumstances that they were living, then you can make sense of the context in which the words were spoken. Do you know that?
No.
Well, let's give it the benefit of the doubt, and let's assume that those are accurate words. So now let's try to figure out the context in which it is offered. And so when we say to you, God is love, God always has been love, God always will be love, God is well-being, God is Source energy, God is always consistent, it is always there for you. Anytime you ask, it will always be answered. Does it make sense that some of those words might match that? Does it say God is unchanging? If it did, it would be wrong.
So is it fair to say that as we are on this planet and we are creating new ideas and new amazing things that maybe haven't ever been around, that God is evolving too?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Source energy expands through you. You are on the leading edge. You said, I will go forth into this time-space reality, and I will chew upon the contrasting events. And from that will be born new ideas or preferences that maybe have never been before. They certainly will be new to me in the moment. And as they are born, that rocket of desire shoots forth from me, and when I ask, it is always given. And so in the moment that the preference is chosen by me, Source energy rushes forward to fulfill the preference. And the universe has expanded, and God has become more. And what this workshop is about is not the expansion of God. God is expanding. It's not getting God back into alignment with Source energy. God is Source energy. In other words, the alignment is there. This workshop is about helping you, the physical, on the leading edge creator, to get in alignment with your own desire. Somebody said to us one day, Abraham, what do you do? In other words, what's your role in our creative workshop? And we said, well, when contrast inspires you to a desire, we immediately go to a virtual reality and imagine the outcome of your desire. We, Source energy, ride the rocket of your desire. That's what the fairies of the universe do. In other words, we take your desire and we envision it to fulfillment. And when you come into alignment with your own desire, you fulfill it within your experience. But the fact that you may not fulfill it does not keep it from being fulfilled. Did that make sense to you? That was really good. One day we were talking to some friends about visualization, about creating a sort of virtual reality, which would then conjure a vibration. And this person said, well, I'm not very good at that because I cannot imagine. And we said, can you remember? And this person said, well, yes, I guess. And we said, do you remember where you live? Do you remember where you parked your car? Do you remember how the furniture is arranged in your living room? Do you know where you keep your wallet when you are living at home? And of course, all of those images came to his mind, and we said, you can imagine, because none of that is here right now in this moment, and yet images are coming forth in your mind, so you know how to imagine. Imagery is only about telling a story, and maybe it's a verbal story, maybe it's a story that brings pictures in your mind. It doesn't make any difference. Imagery is about expressing something that is not happening here in this moment. And so what we are wanting to encourage you to begin doing is use the power of visualization, a virtual reality game, so to speak, where you get to make things just as you want them to be, and in doing so, you conjure a vibration. Now, what we've noticed, because some of you have been doing something like this for some time, some of you have been doing what we've called creative workshops or imagination for a while. But the thing that we want you to hear that may be different for you here today than what you've been doing before is that when you are working in your virtual reality, you make everything as you want it to be. You would not take a broken relationship into your virtual reality and fix it. You would just take a perfect relationship. In other words, you would not build a house in your virtual reality and then notice that it had holes in the roof and then tear the roof off and replace it. You would just build the perfect house in your virtual reality. And we think that is the thing that is tripping so many of you up, because so often you go to your creative workshop to try to fix something that is broken. And then you drag that energy into it, which causes your virtual reality moment in time not to be any more pure in vibration than what you're actually living. Something that really trips you up is that you have been trained to believe that you should face facts, that you should tell the truth, that you should tell it like it is. And what we're really wanting you to hear is that when you are seeing it, remembering it, imagining it, telling it like it is, then you are offering a vibration like it is, and you're not doing something about changing anything. In other words, all that you're doing is practicing the same vibration that is bringing you to the same place that you were before. And so, as you begin to utilize this virtual reality in the powerful way that we are offering it to you, you will take 15 or 20 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, on subjects that are important to you, and you will jump in and imagine something just as you want it to be. And if you find your mind wandering into the arena or area of trying to fix something that is broken, just laugh about it and leave the virtual reality and say, I'll come back later and I'll be as pure as I can be. In other words, dart in, have fun, and then get out before you get negative. Dart in, have fun, and then get out before you get negative. Try to contain yourself, try to control yourself, try to keep from trying to fix anything in virtual reality. And in time, what will begin to happen to you is your virtual reality vibration will become more dominant than your reality, or you're telling it like it is. And as that teeter-totter or weight and balance tips, then you will begin to see manifestations coming that reflect your newfound vibration. Do you believe us when we say that you are more electrical than anything else? Are you beginning to get it that you are vibrational beings? Do you understand that your emotions are your indications of vibrations? And can you not just really feel that if you could get into a virtual reality where you conjure some images that really thrill you, that this is practicing a different vibration than you might have been practicing before? And can you get it that with a little bit of concentrated practice that you could activate a vibration within you that's different than anything that's been there before? And then can you see how your life can change? We want you to hear anything that you want. There is nothing off limit. Anything that you want. All you got to do is conjure it until the conjured image dominates your vibration. And when the conjured image that pleases you dominates your vibration, everything in the universe will shift. Everything will shift in order to help you to achieve the manifestation of this that you've conjured. It is law. It absolutely has to be. In fact, it is being in every moment of your experience. Everything that you are living is the perfect reflection of your vibrational countenance.